Hello and welcome to another episode of The Swing. As always, it's your boy HK, and I'm joined by my co host, That Guy Owais, as we get to go today through some of the early season successes, some of the early season MVP runners, really focusing in on who's really started to separate the wheat from the chaff, who's making themselves into consideration for what could be a pretty tight MVP race. And there's a couple of teams that are really having that hot start to put themselves into that ladder. But before we even get into any of that, shout out as always to our sponsor, Thrive Fantasy. For those who don't know, it is daily fantasy prop bets that you go ahead and get yourself signed up on thrivefantasy.com using the promo code SWING, SWING, and you will get 100% of your deposit matched up to $50. So go ahead and put that 50, it becomes 100, and then on a night you just go ahead and choose, hey, is Harden going to go ahead and drop another 38? Then maybe you want to take his over on points on that night. But all it comes down to is picking a team of 10 players that you're going to pick the over under on, and if you happen to be right on the vast majority of them, you will place in the top whatever percentage and make legit money. So sign up and prop up today. But that guy Oasis, we know Thrive is thriving, but the swing is out here swinging. And that guy always just continues to show his capabilities with the ball. We had ball this morning, but he's showing his capability to be able to run a crew cut as well. Because man, that just keeps getting more and more aerodynamic. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. I feel great. Just context, guys. This whole week, I was challenged to do the vegan life, and I feel fantastic. So when we played basketball, it felt like I had my legs. And take a look at Offbeat Life as our incredible inspirations to trying this. So the guys that challenged me, shout out to Tahir and Anissa, but that you can check out on my Instagram page. Here we're here to talk about basketball. Now, speaking of incredible players that seem to be feeling good every night, we have some early MVP conversations. I know it's early in the season, but it's always fun to talk about this because in this year's NBA, there is a name that probably surprises people. And if you want to hear it from me, I will gladly say he's number one on the spot, but he is currently ranked fifth. Let's talk about quickly those five players that are in the list for the MVP race. Harris, do you mind just spilling out
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
list?
So the NBA released its first MVP ladder as of last week. And, we'll go from number 5 all the way up to number 1. And I know we're going to focus on number 5 because it's your boy. It's Demar Derozan with the
Mm,
Chicago Bulls running out with a 26, 6, and 4 stat line for a Chicago Bulls team that has been incredibly underrated, has done really well in some super tight matches and has come out ahead. Still some questions about their depth, but there is no denying that DeMar DeRozan is having himself an incredible season. And I know you'll get to speak a little bit about him, but well, let's move on. Number 4, Paul George with the LA Clippers, sitting right now at 27, 8, and 5. Again, the LA Clippers, a team that's obviously been dealing with a lot of injuries. They've had a rough start. It was 1-4, but now they've gotten themselves up to 10-5 and cracked themselves into the top 5 of the Western Conference. So very much a magical run for them to be able to get up to where they are now. Frankly,
mhm.
wasn't expected given the kind of injuries they've had to deal with and are continuing to deal with. But hey, if Paul George and his Clippers can keep running at this kind of pace, he can make some noise for this MVP race. Number
Huge.
3, as always, the reigning, defending
The
Joker.
injured. I'm just
Ah,
kidding.
he ain't nothing. He is only out there to ball, and man, is he balling this year. Nicola Yokic sitting at 26, 14, and 6 as his main stat line coming through, and just the Denver Nuggets again. You'll see this being a theme throughout this in MVP ladder, just injuries or other things that are holding out key players on all of these teams, but these guys still finding ways to make sure that their team wins, to make sure that they're getting theirs and making themselves in the running for the MVP ladder. Second is Steph Curry. Chef Curry with the shot. And man, I would, if it was up to me, I'm putting him at number one at this moment. But man, Steph Curry has come out this season just absolutely on a tear. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was a scoring champion last year, but obviously the Warriors themselves had their struggles, but Steph Curry this year has led them to a 14-2 start and is currently sitting at 29.5 points a game, 6 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and just being as efficient as ever and just continuing to do things that just amaze us. Everything that we had loved from back the 2015, 2016 Steph Curry is here and it's in full flow. But there's only
Absolutely.
one that's the early challenger at this moment, and that is KD slithering his way to the top of the Kia MVP ladder to start the year. And why not? Why not? He goes off absolutely crazy to start the year 28.6 points a game, 7.8 rebounds, 5 assists, shooting 57% from the field. And again, a Brooklyn Nets team that obviously is coming in with massive ambitions, massive expectations. Started off, a little rough, but now have found their groove and are sitting on top of the Eastern Conference right now, 12-5. But KD himself is dealing with a little bit of a niggle, so perhaps we'll see
Mm,
a certain other bearded one have to make the run for them to be able to get there. But without that, let's focus on that. So of those top five, obviously there are a number of honorable mentions here. The people that are having just absolutely monster years just outside of that top five, and they listed them as Jimmy Butler, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Rudy Gobert, John Morant, and Joel Embiid. But really, it seems like these top five at this moment are a bit just a bit above the rest as far as that ladder is concerned. So what's your take on it? Where are we going so far and what are you
yeah.
liking?
I like all five of those guys. You can't complain about any of the play that they have when they're on the court. Good things tend to happen. Um, but let's talk DeMar DeRozan really quickly. We got some highlights here, and I want to kind of give you guys some sort of insight as to why DeMar is doing DeMarvelous type of things, right? So right off the bat, one thing about this Chicago team that makes them stand out in front of other teams is the fact that the offense is just so well organized, right? You have options now with any four of the guys or four or five of the guys on the court. So you have, your Lonzo Ball, great distributor, runs the floor well, sets good screens, lengthy. You got Vucevic. Vucevic is also someone who's incredibly gifted as an offensive big, right? He can also stretch the floor because he can shoot threes. You've got Zach LaVine. He can turn it on at any point, give any team 40. And then you have DeMar DeRozan. Now, the beauty of this team is DeMar can play the game that he's been playing with the Toronto Raptors back in 2016, 2017, right? Is that, he can do whatever he wants in the mid range. And honestly, he's getting those mismatches. He's getting teams drawn to him because, or he's getting those mismatches drawn to him because, those screen and rolls work perfect. He's able to isolate the guys that he wants to because there's so many other options on the court. But most importantly, apart from the fact that this guy's hitting about 27 points a game, at about 48, 49% field goal percentage, the thing that I love about him is that he's attacking and attacking, getting to the line when he's not maybe hitting his middies, and he's doing it effectively. And this team has somehow turned around their defense as well. And DeMar's been a big part of that too. As a wing, like he's doing a great job, deflecting shots. When you got Caruso and Lonzo Ball and these types of guys, it makes it a lot easier, of course. But being the second or third ranked defense in the league, coming from one of the worst in the past, or in last year, I think they were 28th. It also works to their style. Very fast paced, very, very quick in transition, and DeMar is a big part of that. So, I want to just give him
Yeah.
a shout out for the mid range, almost spectacle we get to see every single night, and we love to see it.
Yeah. Unlike our viewers who weren't able to see the highlights because, full screen. But
Oh, sad.
regardless, no, the point remains that DeMar DeRozan has
Yeah.
absolutely fit in like a glove on a Chicago Bulls team that frankly needed it. I mean, there's still question marks about their second unit, about the kind of depth that they have, but there's no doubt that this starting unit has actually come together really well. And you talk about spacing, you talk about guys who are able to occupy the kind of space that allows the offense room to be able to maneuver. And that's what DeMar DeRozan is allowing himself to do, because you have versatile guys like Nikola Vucevic, like Zach LaVine, guys who are able to not only stretch the floor, but also be that guy that can be, in Nikola Vucevic's concern, the recipient of the pick and roll, the recipient of being able to make those dives to the rim and create that kind of havoc over there, so that DeMar is getting that room to be able to
Mhm.
operate in the mid range. So it's just been an incredibly efficient season for him so far. And, he talked about the fact that, it's funny, we're watching LA Lakers highlights because, the interview came out that he pretty much thought that going to the LA Lakers was a done deal, that it was supposed to be, him going on over there, but obviously the Lakers decided to go a different route with the Russell Westbrook trade instead, which, obviously we will have to only decide what that means at the end of the year. But so far, it looks like they made a boo boo with that one, because the
Oof.
Lakers are struggling. They're looking their age as much as, the jokes about them being geriatric, but more so than that, they just aren't looking like they have enough
Oh,
in the
look at that
tank.
move.
Now, that's just
Ah,
nasty. Like that's something.
ah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's just gorgeous turnaround, and it comes from DeMar DeRozan's capability to be able to know his game and just excel at his game. But he's also
Absolutely.
shooting the three pretty well this year for,
Yeah,
for all the
33%. I
things.
mean, that's not bad. But I mean, like again, you're not expecting him to shoot those. Even now, like it's very seldom that he shoots it. But it's just it's beautiful basketball to watch. I mean, I urge everybody who is a basketball fan to go watch the Chicago Bulls, see how well they're playing on both ends of the court, and just see how exciting it is to see the Bulls franchise finally from like a really, really dark age turn it around. Um, yeah, shout out to everybody there. But that was DeMar DeRozan. Now we're going to talk about a guy with the sauce. This game in particular, we had a game where the Golden State Warriors are facing the Cleveland Cavaliers without, of course, Kyrie and LeBron. This is another classic, though, because Cleveland was absolutely washing them early. But this guy put on his best Chef Curry impression. And well, I mean, he's always Chef Curry, but like, just look how ridiculous this
Put his
guy
big
just
boy
break down
chef
defense.
apron on.
I wanted to say big balls, but I don't know if it was appropriate.
Might get
But
fined, Fred VanVleet.
yeah, but seriously, like the way that he broke the game down with the help of the team eventually, like unbelievable performance and shooting from everywhere. And like, those games where you feel like, this guy just can't freaking miss. That was that. This was this night. You know what I mean? And then again, look how he draws five people in every single time. That is the mark of someone who is just unguardable because everybody respects him. So there's not much to say about Steph. You tell me what you saw in this game that made you absolutely go crazy.
I mean, this game is just yet another example of exactly what Chef has always done, which is, as you said, draw so much attention to himself that, there's memes, there's pictures after pictures of, defenses that purely focus on everything Steph Curry does. Like, they're not even concerned about what the rest of the guys are doing, because they're just so laser focused on what Steph Curry's doing. And, despite all of that, for him to just continue to do what he's doing now at the level that he's doing it. I mean, look, he's doing 30 points a night, which, he could do, but the fact that he's doing it with the level of efficiency, despite all of that attention, is what makes Steph Curry just so crazy. And, you know, we talk about his 3-point prowess. He's yet again hitting almost 6 threes a game. He's going to pass Ray Allen's record within the next, couple of games, about 600 games sooner than Ray
Oh
Allen
my
did it.
God.
He already passed him on the combined regular season playoff one earlier this year as well. So it's just, I said, another year, another landmark. And honestly, early on, from what we've seen with the Warriors, I would say they benefited a little bit from an easy schedule, but not necessarily that because the team itself was anything less than what they're showing now, but it allowed them to get into the groove where they could make a couple of those mistakes early,
Mistakes, yep.
yet not be punished in the same way that they potentially would have been in a Brooklyn game, in a Chicago game. But because they faced that now at like a 12-2 run, they were just on another cloud nine, as far as confidence was concerned. And that confidence was just too much on that night for both of them to handle. So
Oh my God.
it's ridiculous. And what the Warriors have always made kind of their trademark in this era is just how pesky they've become defensively. And remember, Clay still remains out, one of the best perimeter guards in the NBA, yet they are still the number one defense in the league. And that's something that you wouldn't necessarily attribute in the past to the Golden State Warriors, but they really changed that entire dynamic around. And that's kind of been their secret sauce as far as why they've been so successful. Because obviously, Steph is just Steph, and you're going to get highlight after highlight on that night. But giving the Cavs, any of those teams, just so much trouble on the defensive end, which obviously we're not going to see in these highlights, but if you watch it, they just totally take you out of your game. And then at that point, once you've got them, then that's where Chef is just going to be ready to roll. And that's exactly what he's been doing so far this year.
It's interesting you say that too, right? Because if we take a look at it, it's the two teams that they're on, like Demar's team, Chicago, one of the top-rated defenses right now. The defense leads to offense. And same thing with the Golden State Warriors. The defense is leading to great offensive opportunities. And that's just a beautiful thing to see, that in order for teams to be super successful, you got to play both ends of the court. And I love to see when people buy into that, right? Even some guys that weren't naturally known as great defenders are buying into the system. And that's beautiful. Also, if you take a look at the Raptors, like Gary Trent Jr. is someone who's emerged as a great defender. And he was also someone who was like, doesn't know how to play defense, great offensive talent. But they're buying in. And even Toronto is like, I think the second best defense in the league, if I'm not mistaken, second or third, somewhere like high up there, or at least in deflections. So big shout out to all of those teams. Big shout out to DeMar. Big shout out to Steph. The other guys, we can maybe talk about on a different day. But this is a great leeway because we have recently started diving into the world of NFTs, and we are going to have a halfway segment called Top Shot with Hires. I don't know. We're going to title it something, but essentially there was a flash, I guess, challenge in Top Shot this week where if you were able to get the top 5 scorers on, I think, the Wednesday night, you could get a free pack or whatever, a series 2 or something like that. So we all kind of went ahead looking for the right people. We're waiting for it was kind of really, really cool. And we picked up moments of the top 5 scorers on that Wednesday night, and we got a pack. Harris, talk to us about Top Shot. What's good? Give us a breakdown.
Yeah, and this entire week has been just super exciting for new developments as far as NBA Top Shot's concerned. And those flash challenges have been a big part of that, not just on the Wednesday, but yesterday we also saw that they had a challenge where it was the top 6 assist getters that would get moments. And really, where I think new people would be very excited about it is that this is not price prohibitive necessarily. It's not, one of those things where you come in and think, oh, it's priced out of my range, or it's something that I can't really get into. This is an easy enough almost game to play as far as being able to understand all these different moments that are coming out for different players, all these different tiers. There's so much to learn. It's a whole new world as far as that's concerned, but it's an easy world to be able to get into by kind of getting yourself involved with these challenges, taking a little bit of time to kind of learn what the system is about. And the other really cool development that happened over Top Shot over the last week is there's a website called momentranks.com where, apart from the fact that it helps evaluate your moments, gives some values to it, but also just kind of give you an idea of what's going on as far as sales are concerned. But there is a moment ranks play side of it where basically you get to use your moments on a night in, night out basis to be able to pick 5 players from that and go ahead and compete against everyone around the NBA Top Shot world and actually get paid for that as well. So, the fact that you can do that based on your moments every time. And, I don't want to get too far into it because there is a lot of, little nuances as far as the scoring of that is concerned. But the basic idea of you having uses for your moments beyond the fact that they're just a collectible that's going to be something pretty important in the future as far as the digital collectible side is concerned. But that's something that you definitely look into. So for those who haven't, you can definitely reach out to me anytime at HackDevil on Twitter. I get lots of questions about it otherwise as well. But yeah, it's an exciting world. It's something that's become a bit of a passion project of mine on the side as far as the NBA is concerned, and it just gives us more and more reasons to be engaged with the NBA, which is really what it comes down to, right? Finding ways to keep yourself uh, engaged with what's going on, having more reasons to care about what it is that
Hmm.
you're watching, and just being more of a fan. So that's what it comes down to. It's another way of being a bigger fan, and I think this is a great spot and a great early spot to be able to get into and really find yourself making it worthwhile.
Absolutely. And again, flash sales or flash challenges, they keep you on your feet. You got to get ready. And sometimes you get lucky because you have these really, really cheap moments that, you wouldn't have thought would have been the top score of that particular day or the top steal getter or
Yeah,
something, whatever the situation is. But it's
yeah,
really, really
you get
cool.
random ones. I mean, on
Yeah.
Wednesday we saw Lou Dort being the third highest scorer of the night, not necessarily one that you expected. And then yesterday, again, injuries play a role, but Juan Scano Anderson went ahead and found himself in the top six assist givers of the night, which
There you go.
100% threw everyone for a loop because everyone was thinking someone like De'Aaron Fox, Fred Van Vliet, those guys would be the ones to go ahead and end up in the top six alongside the usual suspects. But hey, that's the reality of the NBA where anything can happen, as they say.
Anything can happen. Now, speaking of anything can happen, thank you so much, guys, for watching that top shot moment. So we're gonna keep you involved in that. Horace is gonna take care of that. Don't you worry. But now we're gonna get back to the basketball aspect of things. There's a weekend of basketball to play and to watch. So let's talk about first and foremost the Toronto Raptors really quickly. We saw their last game, which was amazing. We're without OG Anunoby, which was a little bit of a hit to find out that he might be out indefinitely.
Hmm.
There's no real timetable to when he's coming back. Um, but the Raptors, I don't know what it is when they face the Sacramento Kings. Pascal Siakam comes alive. I remember last season very vividly that was the game where we kind of turned everything around for him in the season before that COVID thing hit us. But Pascal had a fantastic game, and I think both from a defensive and offensive standpoint, the Toronto Raptors were just outplaying, outworking, and just getting to their spots appropriately. It was spearheaded by Gary Trent Jr. really early, and then it became the Pascal show. And I don't know what were your thoughts on that game? Just really briefly.
Yeah, and it was a game that the Toronto Raptors, plain and simple, needed. We're coming off three losses in a row, and a couple of those games being pretty disappointing losses to say the least. I mean, I would say the Detroit one at home was just terrible. We shouldn't have lost that game, but found a way to do so. Losing in Portland again in a scenario where we had a lot of chances to be able to take the game, but for us to come out in Sacramento and a game in which we weren't favored and come out with the kind of energy to come back from a rough start because we didn't start well, gave away turnovers early. In fact, it was Siakam that gave away like three turnovers in the first like 4 minutes. Halliburton getting all those steals and putting them up close to double digits to start off. But again, it's about rallying, how it is that you're kind of coming back from that. And we've spoken about the fact that development is incredibly key as far as the Toronto Raptors are concerned. It's the reason why they're not playing a veteran like Dragic, right? Instead, they're going with Delano Banton and they're going with more minutes for these younger guys, Scotty Barnes, being allowed to make these mistakes and learn from it because this is where you're starting to see the growth. Gary Trent has been, to me, the biggest, I guess, from the Raptors' perspective, the most improved player that they've seen from a year-to-year basis, and it's come from that capability of him making himself just unremovable as far as from the floor is concerned because of how good he has been on the defensive end. And he is frankly our best shot creator. So it's just become one of those things where we can run different units with Gary Trent as kind of that release valve to be able to get those buckets, to get those shots off when kind of nothing else is necessarily working. But
For
to go back
sure.
to Pascal Siakam himself, again, for him it was all about getting himself back in the groove. I said it before; these last couple of year and a half has been clearly off as far as Siakam is concerned because of he himself has talked about these external factors that have come in. But the reality is, it's just one of those things where this is, I would say, the first legit full on season that we're seeing for the Raptors, especially being back home, even though our home results have yet to normalize themselves, which I'm sure they will very soon. But the energy is there. You're seeing the energy within the Toronto Raptors themselves, and you're seeing that energy at the Scotiabank Arena when you're going to see it. And you're also going to see that energy in Indiana when that guy Owais and
Mm,
HK head there next week, which is something we'll talk about in a second. But For Siakam, who had a great game against Portland, had a terrible game against Utah, needed this to be able to come and turn himself around. And hopefully he can keep this going because it's going to be no holds barred in the next match against the Golden State Warriors on Sunday, which has always kind of been that barometer for the Toronto Raptors. They love that matchup. Whether we win,
Yeah.
lose, it's just always been like a tooth and nail. Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
the Steph Curry connection, whatever it is, there's just something about our matchups with the Golden State Warriors that end up being one of the matchups of the season as far as the Raptors are concerned. And I expect no different coming to Sunday as well.
100%. And that's the exciting part about the Toronto Raptors season is every time Steph Curry comes up, you're like, okay, is he gonna go off against us? Generally, he does.
Probably.
Box and one, generally we do. But we'll find out. We'll see how this game works. I mean, both teams have a pretty I would say pretty quick pace of play. I think one factor that the Toronto Raptors might have over the Golden State Warriors is again second chance points. I think that's huge. If the Raptors keep playing the way they are in terms of how they're getting their opportunities, um, offensive rebounds. Ken Burch has been fantastic. Scotty Barnes, fantastic. Even Preston Drew at times, he's not looked so good this season, but he is picking up offensive boards here and there. And I think if we can capitalize on those a lot more than we are, and hopefully play a little better in terms of the pick and roll, because I don't see an ISO type of game working well against a Golden State defensive system, right?
Mhm.
But let's see. I think this is also a great game for Pascal to try to, flex on these guys. Seriously, I think this is a good matchup for him. Um, as they don't have as much size, maybe like one or two guys that could potentially keep up with him. But really, I don't think there's no man that can check him on Golden State. Maybe as a team, but that gives him the opportunity to go pick up some fouls, or work his game inside. And I'm just excited. Again, Fred VanVleet against Steph Curry has always been a matchup to see for the ages. So we're really excited for that.
Yeah, no doubt. And like I said, to me, that's probably the matchup I'm looking most forward to as far as the weekend's concerned. There are a couple of others that have pretty decent implications as far as early season kind of important matchups, important standing implications. You got Miami going up against Washington,
Hmm.
which probably you wouldn't have said at the start of the season, but
No way.
well, Washington has played exceptionally well to start it off. We'll see how far they actually land as far as the season goes on. But it's clear that the trade has worked well as far as their depth was concerned. I mean, as much as Westbrook, and I personally love Westbrook, but it's just one of those things where it needs a very specific scenario for Westbrook to be successful. He found that in OKC. He struggled with that in Houston. He struggled with it in Washington, and the Lakers at the moment are struggling with it as well. We'll see if they actually figure it out. But with the pieces that they got in return, whether it be Montrezl Harrell, whether it be Kuzma, whether it be KCP, like all of these guys have come in and started playing just very, very clear roles, very useful plays. And it's not like in the case of Kuzma, it's not like he's particularly playing better, I'd say, than he was on the Lakers. I mean, his numbers are about the same, still shooting about the same percentages, but it's just there's a different air about how the Washington Wizards have gone about this early season so far. It almost reminds me of the Raptors back when like that trade happened with the Sacramento one, where it's like, all right, we have nothing to lose here, right? Let's go
Hmm.
out and express ourselves. Let's go out and show that we are better than what others think we are. This group of outcasts, these group of misfits that have gotten together and now gotten the opportunity to try and do something with, in some cases later on in their careers and some in the prime of their careers, trying to make sure that they get a key contract. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. Miami continues to be just an absolutely nasty team. Hopefully, everyone is healthy. They've had
Yeah,
their
the health issues.
yeah, they've had some couple of Bam has been out with a strain. Jimmy was
Kyle
out
with his
then came
ankle,
back.
same with Jimmy as well. It's tough. It's tough to see that, but that team just finds a way to win anyway. And shout out to Tyler Harrow, who's playing fantastic offensively. One of those guys, run and gun, just in the moment. It's tough to guard guys like that because they're so
Yeah.
like they're so on you all the time from an offensive end. You don't have time to think.
I mean, if you ask him,
But
he thinks he's Luca and Trey in that same category. But
hey,
hey,
man, I
if he
love it.
keeps
Have
playing
that
like this,
confidence.
then have that confidence and show it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And speaking of, Washington, I think I always say, with basketball, eh, a lot of the time it's just about scenarios, right? Each player on any given roster can be successful on a given team. It just depends on what the scenario is. Kuzma has been, decent with the Lakers, but I mean, his potential was shown to us to be so much bigger, and he didn't actualize that. But it could have been because of the shadow of LeBron. Not everyone can deal with that. And again, a guy like that is just out there to create, to cook. You know what I mean? He's not one of those guys that's really going to be using himself as a team basketball player, right? So run and gun, and he's doing a great job with that. I personally feel like, and same with some other of the players on Washington, like Spencer Dinwiddie. I thought he was fantastic in Brooklyn before the injury, and much the same. Like, he's a smart player, and he's just translating that same game into pretty much a team and a system that really needs that. And that's kind of like the heart of the team in itself, right? Like, how does the ball move? It's usually through Spencer, and Bradley Beal can do his thing, and it's good to see that Bradley Beal's gamble paid off to stay in Washington.
So
And he
far,
has a
so
pretty
far.
successful team so far, yeah. And yeah, so that matchup is going to be good. Hopefully, we'll get a good game out of it. But that's pretty much it from us. Anything else that you want to kind of hit on?
Yeah, we've talked about the games this week. Going back to what you're going to get to see with the Swing coming up on the next week. Follow us on Instagram as always, right? At the Swing Podcast. And this week you're going to get to see some nice live stuff, because not only are we going to Indiana, we're road tripping it down there. So,
Oof.
we're planning on following along with that, giving a couple of clips, maybe some cool food spots we hit on the way as well. There's a lot that the Swing is going to do to try and get themselves involved with that. And hey, us, we're always loud, always passionate. So watch out on your TV as well if we
Yes,
find
sir.
ourselves away getting on. So we've got ourselves lower bowl seats. We'll be going out for that November 26th matchup against the Indiana Pacers. And we like to do this on an annual basis. Unfortunately, the last couple of years obviously had messed around with that, COVID protocols and all. But COVID protocols be damned, we'll follow what we need to be able to get there and be in the arena where the Raptors do get to take on the Indiana Pacers on what should be a pretty good match. Obviously, the OG injury continues to be something that could come back and hurt us. But hey, look, the Indiana Pacers are dealing with their own situation as well. They're not completely healthy. They don't have TJ Warren back yet, right? So it's just one of those where I look forward to a good matchup. I actually like how the Indiana Pacers team is made up. Miles Turner continues to have an absolutely excellent year, leading the league in blocks yet again. So let's see how that goes. But until then, that guy Owais, HK, we will be there. We will see you there. And as always, anything that you guys have, any recommendations, things that we should hit up. Do we have any Indiana mans over here? If we do, let us know what's cool to hit up in the town. Personally, it's my first time there, so I'm actually excited to check out the city alongside the game. We got ourselves a hotel close by, so we'll just be walking around, seeing all the sites, checking out all the things, and seeing how much the locals like a bunch of loud Toronto Raptors fans coming up all in their business. But until then, we will see you then. Take care and peace.
Lillard, long range three. Defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?